All right, everyone. The last, the regional governors' elections in Venezuela, mysteriously, a bunch of establishment candidates managed to win by unseemly margins. I wonder how that happened. Could there have been a little bit of a rigged election by the far left in Venezuela? See, here's the funny thing. If you look at the election that we had here, people declare it to be rigged because somebody who supposedly is on the right, although he's basically a business Democrat, managed to win the election by whatever margin in whatever states, and it's mysterious because Clinton won the popular vote and stuff. You look at Venezuela, none of them are talking about it down there. We're polling, and I thought you trusted the polls, shows Maduro with an approval rating that's in the teens somewhere. At best, on a nice day, it's 22% or thereabouts. And mysteriously, despite this fact, only 5 opposition candidates won their governorships. This after everyone anticipated, well, there probably won't be any establishment governors left, thus putting pressure on Maduro. So why do you think he wouldn't allow them to win? Now they're saying that they're going to redo the elections there too, probably, because these opposition governors refuse to actually take the oath from this, new pro-party socialist far-left movement. So Venezuela has fundamentally collapsed. It no longer has a functioning government. You can't say that Venezuela is a representative democracy, or at least that's the way it's supposed to be. It's the way it bills itself. It's guaranteed by its constitution. Since it is clearly not a functioning representative democracy, it no longer has a functioning government whatsoever. Society in Venezuela is gone. There is no Venezuela currently at the moment. They don't have a functioning economy. They don't have functioning industry. At some point, by the way, the people of Venezuela, I hate to say this, but because of those, you're not going to have a functioning military force either. That's going to become a problem, because at what point is Maduro incapable of actually holding things down through threats and aggression? At what point do people begin to rebel anyway? Like, what if the military says, okay, they cut our rations again, enough's enough, something's got to give here. By the way, it wouldn't even matter. It would still be years before Venezuela was capable of being developed again, or even stable. Because if you force Maduro out, the problem is that the socialism that is there, shitty and lackluster as that redistributionism may be, it's the only thing holding your society together. For some time, you'll probably be even hungrier. It would require a huge amount of foreign aid. A lot of the Eastern Bloc sort of style nations that are funding Venezuela will stop doing so. The West will come in and try to help, but unfortunately there will be a gap in time there. Especially, think about how strangulated our legislature is. Like, the average American person, if they were sane and knew anything about Venezuelan culture, would say if Maduro does get, shot in the head and the opposition takes over, we should immediately begin delivering aid. The problem is that our legislature moves so slowly, it would probably take us months, so sorry about that too. And by the way, I oppose any intervention, direct intervention in Venezuela. I don't even think we should continue sanctions. What's the fucking point? Maduro's going to run the country into the ground on his own. We don't need to sanction. Maybe sanctioning Maduro and his top people so they can't participate in the normal economic structure. But I mean, it's not really going to affect them. They'll just parasitize more of the local economy or steal some Colombian goods or sell drugs or something like that. Maduro's a madman. But as always, remember, it was Hugo Chavez that created the problem. Hugo Chavez structured the economy and society of Venezuela in a very poor way. So that as long as the monocultured economy, which was, hey, we have oil and we sell it, as long as the oil price was high, you could make your debt payments because you had debt spending already. Another mistake that we're unfortunately replicating at the moment, making people nervous in the process, and which China and Japan and a lot of other nations are too on spectacular scales. Yeah, it's coming world recession probably. It's going to be a problem potentially. Venezuela's economy was structured after one good happening to be expensive, and that's why they made a lot of money selling it. So Hugo Chavez saw this as not a problem because as long as he was in charge, the oil prices were high. Maduro takes hold. Oil prices are still high. Nothing's going wrong at the time. You can pay for the social spending. You can pay for everything because you're making money hand over fist on oil. It doesn't matter if it's inefficient and the oil rigs leak. It doesn't matter if that one just blew up. It doesn't matter if there are oil pirates, and stuff like that. which it was racked with problems. It didn't even matter because it was worth so much money. It was such a return. You could pay for everything. You could pay for all sorts of cool stuff. And that's why Chavez and, early wave of Maduro people are getting like, you got a subsidized laptop for $5. You got a free microwave, you got free AC, you got free new flooring and everything else. Now, some of the housing that was built was underdeveloped by Western standards. In fact, it would be sub-Eastern Europe standards, probably. It'd be like being in a more impoverished part of maybe Latvia or Romania. So not the greatest, like some of them lacked plumbing and stuff, they weren't fully finished. And then the oil collapse hits. And now you'll never finish them because you don't have the money to. Now you barely have the money now to make the interest payments on the debt that Venezuela ran up when times were good. That was Hugo Chavez that began doing it. Maduro just continued it. So while Maduro's shitty, and he doesn't really know what he's doing, and he's clinging to power mainly through violence, and while he has destroyed the Venezuelan government to the extent that it's no longer a representative system at all, it's a dictatorship with him at the helm. Despite all that, it wasn't him who caused all of this. It was Hugo Chavez, who's still remembered by a lot of Venezuelans more fondly than Maduro is. But Maduro didn't structure the economy. He just kept doing it. Would have been difficult for him to restructure it. As we see, even there where you've got a one-party state basically that does whatever the fuck it wants and won't even listen to the courts half the time, certainly doesn't listen to the legislature there at this point. Despite all of that, things can still move slowly in Venezuela. Months later, Maduro says, oh, yeah, I know that new ration that we were going to give you, we still can't deliver it yet. They've got inflation problems. That's becoming an issue there as well. I think, I can't remember what the total is. But Venezuela's paper money, which is already basically worthless. People would rather trade toilet paper or Bitcoin or anything else. The currency is going to be worth even less than worthless. At some point, it won't be printed at all because there won't be a point to printing anything. Even the higher denominations, that's the other problem. They'll hyperinflate things by printing ever larger and larger denominations. Oh yeah, here's your new 10 trillion Maduro bucks note. Yeah, it can buy a loaf of bread. We saw this in Yugoslavia before it collapsed, by the way. We've seen this in other countries before, where the economy goes haywire, hyperinflation takes hold, and it sort of heralds a coming collapse, or at the very least significant internal problems. If it survives at all, it's a miracle. And that's the way Venezuela's going. And it's Maduro's fault. It's Chavez's fault. It's the fault of socialism, but even more, it's the fault of central planning. Not just socialism, not just redistributionism, because if there had been a free market paired with that, it would have been able to outmaneuver the oil crisis, because somebody at some point would have said, well, there are other things we could be profiting on, and other aspects of the economy would probably still be functioning. There'd be less, you'd be in a recession, but there'd be less hunger. There'd be less shortages. There'd be more domestic production. There'd be less authoritarianism shown towards foreign businesses, thus driving those underground too. There would be less misery. Unfortunately, in Venezuela, you didn't have that. You had not only heavy-handed socialism, which is wasteful, potentially speaking, you also had a very, very dumb central planning system in which the government just basically said, fuck everything but oil, because oil prices will never come down. Some people still blame, a CIA coup attempt is bringing the Venezuelan economy down. It has nothing to do with that. It has nothing to do with embargoes and sanctions either. It has to do with the oil prices. What proportion of the economy of Venezuela is just oil shipments? Wasn't it like 85% or some insane total just in oil? And so when the oil prices go down by, more than 50%, that's a large chunk of your economy that's missing. See, the problem is that's what was paying for all of the socialism. That's what was paying for the debt payments, because you continued to print more funny money in order to pump into those same situations, in order to spread the goods around further and make people think that they were wealthy. Now you can't even run those appliances. You only have electricity, 5 days a week? There's your problem. And it goes well beyond Maduro. But Venezuela is essentially, at this point, we can declare that unless the oil prices tomorrow magically skyrocket by 200%, Venezuela has already fallen. Now it's just a matter of, when does Maduro get knocked off? When does civil war erupt? When does somebody else intervene? That's the only question left, essentially. There's a good 99% chance that will, at some point in the next few years, actually occur. That's about all. Peace out.